the December 8th, 2025 meeting of the Newcastle Planning Commission to order. The first item of business will be roll call.
Gordon Harness.
Here.
Carl Evans is absent. Will Wright.
Here.
Keith Blakehorn.
Here.
Nick Williams.
Here. Okay, we do have a quorum, and we will proceed with business. Item number 2 is to consider approval of the agenda.
No other than the 9 and
Noting that items 9 and 10 have been continued. I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as presented. A second. All fair signify. The agenda will be approved as amended with the continuance of item 9 and 10. Item 3 is to consider approval of the minutes from our last meeting. I would note that the format of the, I think a portion of the wording on our motion recommending approval of the land use map. I think it's lacking the fact that I made that motion conditional upon the motion was made that our recommendation of approval was conditioned upon the city council determining that they wanted to open this area to denser multifamily apartment and small lot development. With my intent that allowed the city council to, or requested that they consider that element as they determine whether to amend the land use map for this part. Anyone have any other? I have a motion to approve the minutes as presented, subject to amendment. Second.
Oh, I'll second, that's fine.
I have a motion and a second to approve the minutes subject to the amendment. All in favor? Be unanimously approved. Item number 4 is to report on the city council's decision on our planning commission's recommendation for the last meeting.
City Council, the December 8th, 2025 meeting, the Planning Commission item, this was the only item, was a final plat of the road at Newcastle, and that was a 5-0.
Item number 5 is continuance request. As noted, items 9 and items 10 have been continued at the applicant's request. Item number 6 is citizens' comments. This is an opportunity for citizens to be heard on matters not before the Planning Commission tonight. It would be a general comment or that sort of matter. If the item is on the Planning Commission tonight, it'll be called, addressed, and then we'll ask for citizens' comments as part of that item. Are there any citizens' comments on matters not before the Planning Commission? Seeing none, we'll proceed. Item number 7 is the lot split deed approval. Discussion action, Janet Dunn and Darren Johnson, 3160 Long Drive, that's a pending matter.
Well, right after we did the agenda, so it has been approved. We already did approve it.
Okay.
Yeah, we'd already done the agenda.
And is that the house further in on the east side? Item number 8 is discussion possible action on the final plat of Riverview Estates, Section 3.
Good evening. I'm Keith Johnston, Development Services Coordinator. The final plat of Riverview Estates, Section 3, is located in the northwest quarter, Section 33, Township 10 North, Range 4 West. The owners and developers are the Builders Collective, LLC. Excuse me. The engineer is Blue and Associates. Riverview Estates Section 3 is a proposed 52.22 acre development consisting of 68 residential lots to be developed under the city's E3 residential estates district zoning. The preliminary plat for this project was approved by City Council on June 9, 2025. The proposed subdivision is generally located north of the Northwest 32nd Street or Highway 37 and west of North Country Club Road. The project is immediately north of the existing Riverview Estate Section 2 residential development. The City of Newcastle staff and Blue and Associates have been coordinating to advance this project since April of this year. The final plat and the construction documents have gone through multiple reviews to address city comment. At this time, the applicant has addressed all the comments. Regarding access, the development is accessed from the northern extensions of the existing Rivercliff Drive and River Valley Drive from Riverview Estates Section 2. All proposed streets are local classification roads without curbs, terminating at cul-de-sacs within the project. The proposed road width is 26 feet within a 50-foot public right-of-way. During the preliminary plat approval process, a variance to 153.046 feet was requested and approved by City Council, foregoing the requirement for the main street in the development to be a collector street. The main streets for the development serve more than 40 dwelling units. However, the streets in Riverview Estates Section 2 were approved and constructed with local classification widths. Therefore, this project will extend the local classification streets to serve the area. In addition, during the preliminary plat approval process, a variance to 153.084 was requested and approved by City Council, foregoing the requirement to construct sidewalks along local and collector streets. This is consistent with prior Riverview Estates Sections 1 and Section 2 that also do not have sidewalks. The drainage and detention has been designed such that runoff from the proposed development will not exceed historical flow. The developer has provided a drainage report which has been reviewed and accepted by the city staff. The subject property is bordered on the north by the FEMA floodplain for the Canadian River. No improvements are proposed within the 100-year floodplain. The drainage report states detention is not required for this development due to the proximity to the Canadian River floodplain. The city's engineering consultant concurs. Regardless, the developer's engineer states that stormwater conveyance system that consists of roadside ditches and culverts have been sized adequately with no increased runoff expected from the project, and therefore no impact to the adjacent floodplain is expected. Maintenance of private drainage easements is the responsibility of the property owner or property owners association. Runoff will primarily convey north toward the Canadian River north of the proposed development. Riverview Estate Sections 1 and 2 were also developed with roadside ditches. For consistency, city staff supports allowing the final phase of the Riverview Estates to be developed with roadside ditches as well. During the preliminary plat approval process, a variance to 153.046 was requested and approved by City Council, foregoing the requirement for curb and gutter in zoning district E3 by providing roadside ditches to be consistent with the prior Riverview Estates Sections 1 and 2. Regarding the sanitary sewer, all lots will be served by individual private septic systems. The developer or home builder is required to obtain the required state of Oklahoma approvals and permits. For water, existing 8-inch water lines previously constructed in the existing Rivercliff Drive and River Valley Drive rights-of-way will be connected and extended into the new proposed development. The proposed lots will be served by city-owned 6-inch and 8-inch water lines extended throughout the development, which the developer has designed to meet required service levels and fire protection needs. Regarding parkland, The dedication requirements of 3.5% acreage must be dedicated as parkland, or $400 per lot fee in lieu of acreage needs to be provided. For this development, either 1.2 acres or $27,200 would be required. The developer is requesting to contribute $27,200 in lieu of the acreage. Planning staff and the city's engineering consultant have reviewed this development with the applicant's design team, and the applicant has addressed all staff comments regarding this final plat. Staff recommend approval of the final plat as submitted. I can take questions at this time. Also, the applicant's representative and engineer is here to address any questions.
I've got a couple of things on the, looking at the plat on the north and the northeast corner. There's a section that is unplatted. It runs
That's
up
right.
against the cul-de-sac and around the north boundary.
Next to the river.
Right.
Right. Can you go to the next slide?
What's the status of that in regard to ownership? I mean, is that a homeowners association common area? Or are we just not doing anything with it?
That's my understanding. And Jason may be able to answer it also, but it's not being platted with this project, so it wouldn't be dedicated to the property owners association. Sure.
Good evening, Jason Spencer, Blue & Associates, 13900 Wireless Way, here on behalf of the applicant. So, yeah, we've left, that's basically excluded from the plat, so it's, it'll be under the same ownership as the property to the north, and it just gives a way to access that property that goes up into the river floodplain for that property owner, which is also same as the developer.
Okay, so the developer's gonna continue to own that property as well as the property
Correct.
to the river.
And in fact, there's some access easements that were previously filed record to get across the property up into that area. And so we'll basically move those to connect on those two spots, just so it's not landlocked in there. There's nothing planned for that area. It's all floodplain.
Okay. I suppose will be the vehicle to provide for some maintenance to that section versus the homeowners living there. I mean, it'll be versus some developments we have some of the homeowners throwing junk, and grass cuttings, and et cetera, over the fence into the adjacent spot, and then we have others complaining that the weeds grow up.
And I mean, it'll be no different than the entire north property line there that's outside of the plat. And that'll just be, on that property owner to maintain his property. And, I mean, not, other than city statutes, then nothing's going to prevent somebody from dumping material out there. But hopefully with the houses built and all that, that'll be a,
Yeah, should be. I was really surprised we have that problem in other areas, but since it came up recently, this made me think of that. Okay. Like I said, city ordinance and common sense and good neighbors. The other question I do have is, I believe in the other section, this provides there's going to be 8 and 6 inch water lines, and I think in the other sections we, by agreement, agreed to just use 8 inch water lines. I mean, there's not very much that you can use 6 inch because it's from the last fire hydrant to or from continuing from the 8 inch line to the last fire hydrants as far as you can use it with the prices. Piping, I think we agreed that we'd just use 8 inch lines in there.
So, I mean, we provided a hydraulic analysis based on fire hydrant flow testing showing that, we've got some portions of 6 inch line that are on those ends. And so we show that it meets requirements for fire flow. I mean, we would ask to be able to do that. I'm not sure why we agree to only 8s, but, so.
I understand that we can, I mean, our ordinance allows the 6 inch. It's just that 8-inch seams. It's a nominal cost and it's a consistency issue that brought the
Well, I mean, like we,
transitions and that with the cost of the transition, you'll probably run an 8-inch line.
it'll cost a little bit more than the additional fittings. Like I said, I mean, we worked with staff pretty hard on this to loop the water lines on those dead ends, so that there's a loop there, and to address all of their comments along with the utility departments and their engineers. And so, I mean, we would ask to stick with the design that we've got.
Yeah, and I can say that Jim Miller with our Public Works Department was kind of involved in kind of how to manage those dead end cul-de-sac areas with those 6-inch lines. So he was you know, aware of what was being proposed and on the.
And that by looping that, I mean, it created some additional links and some additional costs that the developer was happy to do. I mean, in order to satisfy staff's concerns there, but because of that, we would ask to keep those portions 6-inch.
Well, and if we're looping them, that probably pick up the difference. Okay. Those were my questions. Does anybody have anything else? Yes, maybe before I make the motion. Make a motion.
You want to do something for me?
Oh, yeah. Sorry, thank you. At this time, is there any public comment on this application? Seeing none, we'll proceed. I have a motion to recommend approval of city council. Second, I have a motion and second. All in favor, signify by raising his hand. Be unanimously approved.
I have a question about, where does the $27,200 go? General fund or
No, there's a park, the actual
fund? So it goes to support this park out here or
support, yes, all
parks in general?
correct.
Items 9 and 10 have been continued. We'll proceed to item 11. Public hearing to consider an application for rezoning from PUD ordinance 894 planned unit development to PUD planned unit development for R&R Land Development LLC for Riverview Villages located in the southwest quarter of section 33, township 10 north, range 4 west of Indian Meridian, McLean County, Oklahoma. Property address is Northwest 32nd Street and Riverfront Drive, Newcastle, Oklahoma. This is R 2025-005. Continued this date.
I'll go and then.
Okay, great.
So, this is an application for Riverview Villages mixed-use development. It's a request for rezoning from planned unit development to a planned unit development. The R&R Land Development is the owner and developer. The engineer and designer is CEC, are the design consultants, also along with building culture. The location is approximately 1.5 miles from the I-44 and Highway 37 interchange on the north side of Highway 37, and it's approximately 77.33 acres. Currently, here on your left side of the screen up here, you can see that it's undeveloped. The middle screen is the current zoning, and the current land use is mixed-use residential. That did go before Planning Commission at the November 17th, 2025 Planning Commission meeting, and was recommended for approval from general commercial to mixed-use residential and commercial. So this is a picture of the approved preliminary plat and the existing zoning. Right now, the existing zoning is planned unit development for Riverview Estates mixed-use development. It has a commercial frontage comprising of almost 25 acres along the frontage of Highway 37 and on the east side of Riverfront Drive, commercial designation, also approximately 22.7 acres, with a residential portion to the north and on the west side of that drive, approximately 26 acres. The residential portion is approved right now under the current PUD to be developed as E3, and the commercial development currently is approved to be developed under the CC2 General Commercial District. Planning Commission recommended approval of this PUD with City Council approval of Ordinance 894 in November of 2021. So the developer came to us last spring and discussed a mixed-use development for this area, and is requesting to rezone, and made several adjustments to obtain this type of development through our subdivision regulations, asking for variances as well as the zoning. So planned unit development is where you can write your own zoning to achieve the type of development that you desire. So Riverview Village's mixed-use PUD is asking for variances. I'll go through just a few of them that are cited in the PUDs that are probably the most substantial. The reduced local road width from 26 feet to 20 feet. The radiuses will meet the emergency access regulation with a 4-inch rolling curb, so it will be curb and gutter streets. There are 226 single-family village lots with a minimum lot area of 3,000 square feet. There are 10 multifamily lots with a minimum lot area of 3,000 square feet. The village center commercial residential, there's 20 lots with minimum lot area of 1,200 square feet. These are 0 lot line front setbacks, required side setbacks for building codes, and rear setbacks where they adjoin private property. The density for this development is approximately 3.3 lots per acre. They have increased the parkland area at 15.28 acres. 1.5 of that will be improved parkland. They also are allowing pervious parking for private parking areas, and all building permits under this PUD must go through their ARB, Architectural Review Board, for approval prior to submittal to the city for any type of building permit. They are requiring 1 parking space per unit and 1 parking space for 200 square feet of commercial area with shared and cross-access parking. The masonry requirements in the PUD are 40% masonry requirements, brick, stone, other types of masonry units, and 60% other types of masonry, party board, architectural siding. No vinyl siding is allowed in this development. There are many architectural details in the design handbook that will be reviewed by the ARB that detail the setting and landscape and walls and fences. And like I stated, they have to have ARB approval prior to submittal to the city for any type of building permit. This drawing on the right-hand side kind of designates the areas for development, the green being open space, the blue being the multifamily areas, and the kind of the pinky red is the single family, and this is the commercial area in the yellow. I'm happy to answer any questions from planning commissioners. And the applicant is also here as well.
There it is. Okay, now, on the master design statement, I think the minimum lot size stated in it is 1,000 square feet. And yet it says 1,200.
Or which designation?
Yeah, I'll find it again.
The village single family, 3,000. I'm reading out of the PUD right now. Multifamily, 3,000. Village center, commercial, residential, 1,200 square feet.
On the noted variance from 153.055 in the statement, the design statement,
Mhm.
lots or driveways are not required, no lot size restriction, no minimum depth, not less than 1,000 feet, no lot frontage required, commercial lots, no size restriction, shared parking and loading allowed.
So if I go to 815, which is the area setback, regulation,
Okay.
they all have the 0 lot line setback for the front.
Right. Seen there in the packet, you see it online, there's two master plans. So,
There's the PUD, and then there's the handbook is the,
yeah, master design statement for Riverview Villages.
that's the PUD.
Okay, I got two. Well, I've got that one, and then we've got the same thing again, I think. Okay, now I've got one down here. So 1.055. That's lots,
Okay,
and E provides lot area of residential lots shall not be less than 3,000 square feet for village single-family lots and 1,000 square feet for village simple commercial residential lots.
that's a discrepancy, so that should need to be changed to 1,200. So they have a 1,200 in the setback, and under each one of the designations that it needs to be here. So it needs to be 1,200.
What's that?
That is 155, 153.055 under lot E. They have that correct. And then they have village center, commercial residential lot, so the 1,000, but it's actually 1,200.
And you're, the one that you're looking at, is which one?
This is the most current PUD from November 13th.
I thought that's what I had too.
You should. The date will be on the front of them. Yeah.
November 13th.
Yeah. So that was a typo, or that was missed. Discrepancy between what would be required.
Mhm.
So that needs to be changed to 1,200.
Well, All right. I thought if you go to section 4, I thought the surrounding land usage should know. It says on the east, it's the CC2 and RF1, medium commercial and single family residential. It's really ag, the first one, with commercial on the front, highway frontage
On the north,
on the east. The north is 63 residential estates, and we just finished phase 3 there. So,
it should add ag then, is what you're saying. The frontage is commercial on the east, and there's RF1 as well,
right.
and add ag.
And on the south, we've got 62 and community commercial. Those are the frontages on Highway 37, but well, then there's an adjacent ag residential. And immediately behind that commercial is ag residential.
They looked at exactly what is touching them on the south side of Highway 9, or sorry, 37. It is CC2.
But regional, what we're really looking at in the community, would include the agriculture residential. And on the west, there's agriculture and residential.
Okay.
Characteristics of the same concept. Is there, these folks can just like, let me go down to the second version of this. See if these numbers coordinate together. These comments came through the readings. Some lots have access to land, even if not street frontage. And that's consistent on down with the subdivisions. But, and we noted that earlier. In looking at the proposed preliminary plat, that some of the buildings don't have street frontage or street access. Uh, that, so some of some of the lots will have only walking access. Is that what that means?
No, not walking. They'll have either access easement, a private street, or a public street. That's in 153.146 under street general provisions C. No, that's not what they will all have access. So that access easement or private street will be the ability to reach it out here.
Every lot within C says every lot in subdivision shall have an access easement, private street, or public street. So the access easement won't be a private street. There's, I guess in the design statement down there, there's a private drive, is that right?
Right.
In a common area?
Right, and it could be also like some of the smaller, the multifamilies where they have shared parking in a parking lot. They're not gonna have a street, it's gonna be your access easement, and it's gonna be a parking lot. Just like you would pull into a parking lot at a, for an apartment unit complex.
And that's gonna be in the multifamily, you say?
Correct. You know that there's some here, there's two parking here, and so this all has a street, these all have. And you can look at the design and you can see that most of the all access is some kind of a easement or private road or private, access.
I'm jumping around in my notes here, but the private drive, which is in a common area, would be, and is maintained by the homeowner association. That reads to me like people in the northeast corner will have responsibility and control over the access for somebody in the southwest corner. Is that correct? Who's going to control how you maintain my private drive? The homeowners association, which is a group, which isn't me.
Mm-hmm.
So if I've got 10 of us on a private drive, how are we going to get along with the total group? Is that what I have concern about?
So what you're saying is, so a portion that's developed under, say, let's just say multifamily, and the parking areas where
Yeah,
we're talking
I
about.
guess. I didn't know how that was going to work in the first place, but now that you've done that, I can see you having a complex of 4 multifamily homes and a parking lot and saying that the homeowners, that that's not going to be
It's not a private or public street.
it's going to be a common area with paving.
Mm-hmm.
And somebody's going to be in control of maintaining that, but it's not going to be the people that use
Would be the HOA,
it. Right.
overall HOA, and I don't have, at this point, we don't ask for evidence. That's create, no right if they would create a HOA for the, single family and then create a separate HOA. I'm not sure that would be a question for the developer.
Move on. May I speak to this a little bit?
Yeah, go ahead, please. I mean, we're better off talking about this as we
Right.
come up than otherwise.
So my name is Austin Stell with Building Culture, with the design team working alongside CEC and the developer. So with the HOA on these private drives, it's exactly what Janae is saying. And yes, the HOA in these communities are very important, and the developer is very invested in maintaining the common areas, the landscaping, things like that. And so the overall HOA will maintain these areas to make sure everything kind of stays up to a high standard, because it's in everyone's interest that the entire neighborhood, not just kind of their parcel or something, is maintained at a high level.
That sounds good, but how are you gonna make it work?
This is just very common in neighborhoods like this. This is how you have to manage it. And I would note that this developer is invested in the long term. This isn't a fast, quick and flip neighborhood. It's investing long term, owning property there, where it has to be well maintained to keep property values and the project moving forward positively.
Jordan, your question was, is 10 units taking care of one private drive area, or is everyone collectively contributing to all the private drive, right?
I think that's what we're hearing, yes. I was asking, how's it gonna work, and is that correct?
Yeah, you can break up. So the way we've seen it, an example is Carlton Landing. There's one HOA, and they might have zones. And if you live in this area, your views are this. Because if you're in a 5,000 square foot house, that might be different than a 1,000 square foot house. You don't have to do that, but there's ways to do it. If you're on a park, your dues might be different than someone, but everyone's in the same HOA.
Crazy county. No, we're not.
Not everyone north. I mean, in Riverview Villages, to be very clear.
Right, Riverview Village.
Yeah, not Riverview Estates or anywhere else, just this project.
HOA.
Yeah.
From what is already,
Yes.
it will not be included in Riverview Estates at all.
Yeah, I get that. This is one single phase, or this.
I'm sure it's not gonna be one single phase.
But ultimately, they all live in one HOA.
Correct.
Yes.
So if you live on this private drive,
Mm-hmm.
you might pay more than somebody living up here, but this person paying this due contribute also to this road.
Yes. I mean, it's all one HOA,
Right.
one entity.
Just want to make sure that these 10 people aren't just paying
Right.
for this, and those people have to pay for their own thing.
No, it all works together.
Yeah.
In the private roadway easement, shall be at least 33 feet, but under the Master Development Handbook, I think I wrote handbook because there's a handbook and there's a statement. The private street is not actually defined and could be any width. So in the statement, I didn't find a limit on the private roadway easement. The question is, did I miss it? You think you got it?
153,052, so that's 45 feet, but some of these private access points could be a sidewalk or something like that. If it's not street access, like car access.
Right away is 45 feet instead of 50.
Right. Got that down. Street design, 33 feet, not 50 feet. Minimum roadway width is 20 feet, not 26 feet. Alley width, 20 foot, not 30 feet. I guess maybe what I was trying to say there is, under that same section, in paragraph B, lots shall have access to public street, private street, or access easement. And that access easement does not have any definition to it as to width or what it is, which is probably why I didn't understand it might be a parking lot. But, well, it seems like we're leaving an awful big hole by saying access easement if we don't know what that is. Assuming it to be a pathway rather than.
Right. I mean, yeah, if the developer is building homes of any kind, there's going to have to be, a pathway to that home. So whether that's a parking lot or a walkway or some kind of park, you could have homes off of a park with green space in front.
Well, from a prior meeting, I think you said something, or something was said about, can't use that for that one, but there would be homes without direct access to the street, without parking for a car.
Right. Like it might be congregated parking or something like that.
Yeah, I'm just talking about the access there. I mean, seems strange we're just setting it up to have, yeah, you can build a house and we don't know how you're gonna get to it for sure, whether it's gonna be 10 foot or 20 foot.
Well,
Well, it has each lot shall front along the private street for a distance of 25 million feet for single family lots and 18 feet for townhomes or mixed use residential lots. And you have to verify those lot widths.
Then where does the
And then
access
for the
easement
width of
apply?
the private, I'm looking for the private street can vary from minimum of 20 feet. Sorry,
Yeah,
that might be something. To
minimum lot width on private streets 25 feet, but what about city street or access easement? I didn't come up with a lot width on the access easement.
do you see that?
For the lot,
Yeah, for the lots on the access easement,
25 is what the minimum is with price. The actual width of the access easement hasn't been defined, or even define it. 20 feet's minimum for access easement, which would be the roadway.
on the private driveway, that's 20 foot, right?
Yeah, I mean, the minimum width for any drive's got to be 20. In the commercial area, you have to have
you go ahead and come on, sorry.
Dean Colita, Civil and Environmental Consultants, 4700 Philadelphia Parkway, representing the applicant. So width of the streets minimum is 20, but if you're going to be in a commercial area where you have parking, you have to have a 24-foot minimum to meet the requirements for turn radiuses for two-way streets. Unless it's a one-way, then we didn't vary that side of things, and that would be technically in the commercial area, we'd have a private drive, which is basically a parking lot for the commercial, it's 24 feet if you're parking it, parallel, perpendicular spots like typical, you have to have 24 feet for two-way traffic. So we're not varying from the code in regards to the city on that side of things. The only thing we're varying from is the private drives and the public streets would be 20-foot minimum streets, 45-foot wide right-of-way instead of a 50-foot right-of-way. And access easements, that'd be defined based on, it'd have to be a minimum of 20 because your road has to be a minimum of 20. So your access easement is basically like an alley. Your alley access is 20 feet. That's essentially what that would be. We can define the access easements as 20-foot minimum that would then match the street width. That's code.
Is the access easement different than the private drive in
It
common
can be,
area?
yes. Because if it's, a private access easement could be just a commercial driveway. Like for instance, I don't have a pointer here, but this here street, this is a private street with a 45 foot access right away. Then that's going to continue to this other street with a private drive. That's a private access easement. That's would be used for, egress through the commercial area. It's all interconnected. If we don't have a public street or a private drive, you have to have an access easement to allow people to access the lots. Because you still have to have access to a lot. Your lot cannot front, it has to front either public right of way, private right of way, or an access.
And I'll just tell you why on that yellow area, because that's the neighborhood center where we've got some small neighborhood commercial and live work units and things like that. You have to have fire access, egress access, all of that. So that's why it is an access easement or a drive, whatever the correct language is there. But we don't want it to be a street of constant traffic going through there, because that defeats the purpose of a coffee shop or something like that with cafe seating spilling out and a playground nearby where kids can play. And so it's a way to have the street meet all the city requirements of egress, fire, and all of that, while still controlling, because we can't close down a public street. So we've driven all the traffic elsewhere and around, but that's what that's for. You could have a farmer's market there if you wanted to with tents and things like that.
And then also in the upper northwest corner where you have the multifamily, you can see the two stub streets there. Those are public streets, but then once you get beyond that, those are just private drive through the multifamily subdivision or multifamily lot, which would have parking and access for all the buildings. Just like your typical commercial development, you got just like if you have a Lowe's or your Walmart, I mean they've got multiple tenants probably on that lot. Every time they lease a space or lease a ground lease or put a new building, they have access easements that they establish so that lot has access to these main thoroughfares. It's all internal, but it's really more of a private access that really doesn't affect the city because it's private. Once, of course, if the multifamily comes in and we do a building permit, then of course y'all go through the reviews of making sure the driveway widths are 24 and the parking you have enough for the number of units you got, and that'll all be done at that stage. This stage is just, those issues will be handled at a building permit stage, not at a use stage. This is just the use of the property at this point.
Yeah, but if we don't look at that now, then we're locked in when we start saying, how do we?
Yeah, but like I said, we have, that we have to have access to all the units, and we have to meet city code in regards to the parking, and the driveway widths and all that. It's just private versus public. The private, developer has to maintain with the HOAs and citations.
I don't think anywhere when I was reading through this, I found any standards for the private drive access, though. No, any standard for the access easement. And part of my concern is once we approve the PUD, we're locked in to this standard that we don't have a standard for. So we're saying, you guys are going to do it right, but we haven't got any way to know that.
And we can add the language in there about the public, private, and access drives have to be 20 feet wide, just to match. I mean, I believe it's in there at some point, but yeah, private access driveway width, then
Yeah,
we can add
you've
that.
got private access, private drives that are different from the street,
Got that in there.
and those are covered.
Yes, sir.
It's when you get to the access easement, that just seems to be a general term that says, we can get you there to that place, but we don't know or say how or what standard.
Yeah, we can define that as 20 foot width minimum, just to match the other streets.
And you could do the definition, so
Yeah.
define the access easement separate from the private street, public street with the minimum 20 foot
Yeah, and then, access, like Austin was saying, access could be by a walkway. Like it may not have to be a vehicular access, so that's why we didn't define that.
That's,
So,
Right, but here's an example. If you do have like a park, kind of a central park with homes lined up on it, and say there's not like a street on the back side of it, there's some congregated parking, but people want to live on a park, it might just be a sidewalk. Now, so I mean, if we were to say the minimum is, a 6-foot sidewalk, or something like that, but obviously that does not accommodate a vehicle. You still have to have fire access, all of these things, so you're really constrained. But that's why that access easement is really like, it could be as minimum as pedestrian access easement. And what if it is a sidewalk? I mean, a parking lot or something like that. But I think we could put a minimum on there if that's helpful.
Maybe it's the language in it that would be like to say, if it is a shared parking area and you have a row of say, single family, smaller units, they front on a park, but their access is actually that shared parking lot. That's their access.
If you could, yeah, they might not front it. Is that?
Right.
Yeah.
So I think that those are things that we probably just need to define in there, so we're not, like Gordon said, we want to make sure that we have that the access uses defined. So if we put that in there, that's what you could develop it as, but they would have the access to their common area parking area.
yeah, for vehicular traffic, 20-foot minimum access easement.
Okay.
That's absolutely that's what we have.
well, that makes sense and all that, but in the access by a sidewalk, which, okay, I can see your concept, but if you're doing that, then from your statement earlier, on the backside was where you were gonna have your fire access and that sort of thing, is that correct?
Well, you could have fire access from the main street, where when a fire truck pulls up in the main street, that, within 150 feet, say they're kind of going into the park with all homes fronting onto a park, they have to be able to access all areas of that house within 150 feet. So that's where I'm saying they might not have to be able to drive back behind the house. Right. So that park wouldn't be able to be very deep, to where we could still have the fire access, but you still might only have walking access to your house. You might walk down 3 or 4 houses on the park to your front door.
So in 8.10 access regulations, you state private shared access drive shall be a minimum pavement width of 20 feet. It's in there. Last 1 to 4th paragraph in 8.10.
To that section instead of where I am. The 8 in 4th paragraph addresses the private shared access drives.
The streets for public and private streets are in the street section.
said in section 8,
8:10, is that what it is? Yeah, I can read it. Lots within this PD shall be required to access frontage on public streets, private streets, or access easement. Private drive shall be placed within a common area designated for access purposes. The property owners association, through the use of recorded covenants and restrictions, shall govern the maintenance of the private drive. Access to individual buildings shall be provided by private shared access drives that will be provided for internal circulation. Private shared access drives shall be a minimum 20-foot pavement width.
yeah. And that covers the drive.
Yes, sir.
What I'm still confused about is that it's going to be, is an access easement the same as your private shared access drives? And the answer to that's no, because some of it's sidewalk.
Well, for the vehicular access, you know, it is.
You've got it defined,
We've got it defined, yes, sir.
but I'm confused as to having a lot fronting on an access easement that is undefined. Which,
Could we say something like
Just to say,
requiring a minimum width sidewalk with access easement to all properties or something? Just so it's defined, some kind of minimum.
I mean, with the access, we could basically just add it to the end of that sentence. Private shared access drives shall have a minimum pavement width of 20 feet.
well,
And-
we're talking two different things.
And then private
That's the
access.
problem. I mean, you've got lots that border on these private drive way, private access drive. And then you've got lots opening onto an access easement.
But, you know, one of the things, I mean, we could put a minimum in there, I think, for sidewalk, but for example, people have to have access just to even be considered egress from a fire standpoint. So there's no definition in there. Once again, it could be, technically, it could be a 4-foot walkway or a 6-foot walkway or a 10-foot walkway. But there's going to have to be some kind of access. And I think if we put a minimum in there, if that's helpful for a access easement sidewalk or something, I don't see a problem with that.
Well, then we'd know what it is. I mean, in all honesty, it seems strange and weird to me that you've got a program for it, so I can understand it. But that was what I found as a hole that I wanted to ask about.
Yeah, so vehicular access easement width, 20-foot minimum. Pedestrian access easement width, minimum 5 feet.
And then add a definition for that access.
Sure.
Well, and we need to tie it to the language where we talk about lots. Because that's where I was reading when I came up with it. We've got a lot that in front on an access easement. What access easement? The way I believe it was stated was a public street, a private drive, access, or an access easement.
Every lot within a subdivision shall have access to an access easement, private street or public street. If they do that in this one. Roadways are minimum 20, but pedestrian minimum 5 foot.
Oh. On the lot. What section is this?
Lot.
155, 153, 055.
Is that in the design statement or?
There's area and setback regulations is On page 18, it's 815. That has a lot of the lot information about lot area, lot frontage, site.
I appreciate the help,
Yeah.
but you're not, you've worked with this more than I have.
No worries.
I just.
Yeah,
Get to it to ask you that question, but.
No, it's okay. Yeah, the section 6 is the variances to the subdivision code, and
Yeah.
then on the back 8 and beyond is all of the new defined criteria that we're creating. We're just noting in 6.1 what we changed and what the difference is, just so we can have that. And then that is also on the preliminary plat as well, codified there.
I've got it up there in that other section.
Yeah, page 4, the 153,055 lots.
Yeah.
And we didn't state anything about access easements there because it wasn't in the code about that, so we couldn't vary from it in that section, so we defined it in the master design statement. Those are just variances on that section 6.
On the, lot depths for residential lots shall not have a minimum depth. How's that work?
Joe, which section are you looking at?
That's that 153,055, section B.
Residential.
Oh, I see. The lot depth register not have a minimum depth. I mean, it was basically to add flexibility. I mean, we know what depths we've got, and we could establish a minimum.
Right, and we have setbacks that we have to work with, and obviously you can't build something with zero space, so it really is an ability to, when you're creating green space or something, but I think we could put a minimum in there, just so something is in there.
It would make more sense if a residential lot had an area. Since it's got a minimum lot area.
A 3,000 square, right, well, but isn't it 3,000 and then 25 wide, so you can kind of back into that?
You can, yeah, but we can establish, because none of the lots are really consistent in depth, so I think that's what the varying was. But we can find, like we did for a lot of this, we found the shallowest lot, and that's what we used as the basis. And that's why some of these lots are, 3,000 foot minimum is not because all of them are going to be 3,000 square feet. It's just because we've only got, we have to meet that minimum, so we have to find the smallest lot. But a lot of them are 4,500, 4,000. I mean, the percentage of lots under 2,000 feet are, maybe 25% or so. They're very low considering the overall lot count. But we had to put that minimum in there to meet, so those lots can meet the PUD ordinance.
I will say that variance from the things going forward, because say your standards are one off, that's the minimum breadth for 50 feet. And none of these meet that minimum requirement, or because there are, like you said, there's variations in the configurations of the lot. That's why they did it. If they could take that minimum area and add that in.
Yeah, we can look at the dimensions on the primary plat, and we can add that in there.
For
whatever they
minimum lot
need.
depth.
Yeah.
If I can do the math now, you pointed out, we do have a minimum lot width,
Yes, sir.
and a minimum square footage. Uh,
We can add
But it
that.
would probably be easier if you fix that.
Yep, we can add that. Yep, section on the 153.055 D, we will add a minimum depth based off the preliminary plat dimensions. And then we will further define that in the actual lot section within the PUD master design statement, which would be under 8.15 area and setback regulation.
Well, while you're on that topic,
Sure.
I see 153.055 listed multiple times in this document. The first time it's listed, E says lot area of residential lot shall not be less than 1,000 square feet. You go further down in the document where it's listed again, E says lot area for residential lots shall not be less than 3,000 square feet for village single-family lots and 1,000 square feet for village semi-commercial residential lots. Which one carries the weight?
He addressed that earlier. It really needs to be 1,200.
Yeah.
That's a typo there on that.
Change that.
On
It's
the,
listed twice in this document, and I don't know which one we're looking at, and they both say different things. So I get that it's supposed to be 1,200, but with all of it, so not 3,000, not 1,000.
The 1,200 is for the yellow when you're looking up there, and so it's really for a townhome is what that idea is. So that way you can purchase a townhome as a fee simple lot versus just a rental. So that's the purpose of that. And I think we did make a mistake on 1,200 versus 1,000.
Yeah.
But that's just applying the 1,200 square foot minimum is just applying to that commercial area.
yeah, page 20 under village center commercial residential, that's where it says the minimum area should be 1,200 feet. The variance that's in that 153.055 needs to be updated to say 1,200 feet. It needs to match the 12. Yeah,
And all the red is minimum. Like if you look at all the math minimum, that's 3,000. Minimum 3,000.
yeah, during the updating of this, we actually made the lots bigger, so I forgot to change the actual variance to 1,200.
On I, and that, under that 153.055, lots for commercial use shall vary from 154 to allow this PUD to exclude lot size restrictions. Commercial lots shall vary in size, and shared parking and loading facilities shall be allowed. The PUD's going to exclude lot size restrictions from our code, or is that, I mean, I didn't understand where that statement went.
It is in our code, our TCC requires a 7,200 minimum lot area for the public.
But it doesn't exclude all lot size restriction, it just,
I think we could update the language to be more clear because the
Sure.
intent is what, yeah.
Yeah, it says commercial use, so. Yeah, and then in the commercial section under area and setback regulation,
you've still got the lot sizes.
we do.
Didn't mean to exclude any lot size exclusion,
Right.
you just meant to exclude what we specify. Okay.
One.
Yeah, because in the village center commercial residential, we didn't specify a commercial minimum there.
You did or did?
We did not. We just handled the. I mean, I guess you could call it. We did. It's 1,200 feet. Yeah.
1,800 feet.
Yeah. 1,200 for the village. Then those are the lots. Yeah, obviously, if you're going to do a commercial building, it could be a smaller, unit, but the building itself would likely be larger. We just took any of the minimum out of that. We just left more flexibility because it could be, 3,000, 4,000, the minimum 7,200. We just didn't have that fully defined yet, based off the actual lot Because commercial lots, you can have multiple buildings on one commercial lot, or you could have just one building on each lot, so it could vary on how that's divided up. So it's just for flexibility mainly than anything else.
Reading through this in several places, I get the feeling that we're almost looking at something that has enough flexibility that it's what feels good we can do. And our code really isn't, I mean, we developed it so we didn't let everybody do what felt good.
Based off of page 20, the minimum lot for village center, commercial, and residential is 1,200 instead of 700 square. So it has been defined.
And what I would, the intent isn't to do whatever we want. I think our vision for this is really reflected, and I know there's different opinions about the 2040 Newcastle comp plan, but whether it's our density counts, our lot sizes, our housing typologies, those are all in there, and that's what we're trying to reflect here. And it's true that like some flexibility to say how exactly are you going to do this park, if you're building a townhome or how wide are those going to be, to have to make every decision down to the smallest granular level when you're doing 80 acres means it won't be as good of a project as it can be. So we want to put a framework in there that the city knows all regulations in terms of whether it's fire or egress and access, and all of these things will be followed. But they have the flexibility to do what is best. And I just will note, I mean, the developer spent over a year working on this, not because this is not a slap together thing, which I know you guys know and I think appreciate. This is really thoughtful, this entire process, and continues to be a thoughtful process of how do you arrange things in the best way. And I understand you need protection too, and we want to offer that here where we can and clarify things. The goal isn't to get through something that doesn't have constraints on it.
You add in that because it does require that minimum 1,200 square feet under the village center commercial under the 8.15. Just make it match with the 8.1 where you give the description. So that way that minimum lot area is in there as well.
Good. And the variance, basically, the 1,200. Yeah.
On the variance from it's a street question, and I'm not finding which number it is right now. But on your jog for 40-foot jogs instead of 100-foot between jogs and no tangents required. And I thought we talked about this the last time. Did you run a traffic engineering deal through and semis or whatever can come through there?
We used the fire truck to get through, and we did analysis of all the streets out there where we need that. I think that will come up again on the final plat as well.
Was that with no parking in the street?
Yeah, no parking is allowed in the street. The only parking is allowed is going to be designated spots off the roadway. There is no on-street parking in this development. It's off-street parking and designated parking spots off of the main roadway, like a typical parkway.
How will it be enforced if it's private property?
Most of the streets in gray, those would be public. There's only probably 3 private roads, signage.
And those private roads are into just a small parking Well, yeah, all the streets are, almost all the streets are the 45 foot.
Yeah, so signage, obviously, and then, just enforcement of parking requirements. Correct. And providing these parking spaces for people to go to, and if you've been to Seaside or some of these other places, I mean, to stop in the middle of the road, I mean, you're blocking the street. I don't think that your car would get towed pretty quick if you tried to do something like that, I believe. But yeah, no on-street parking.
And when we talked about that before, you were talking, I mean, so on these streets that are 20 foot wide, you're building those within a 45 foot easement. So you basically have got 12.5 feet that's still easement there, and you're putting parking there.
Possibly, or be in a lot adjacent to it. Yeah, you won't be able to restrict access through the 20 foot wide street. That's
Right, so that 12.5 feet could be sidewalks, be green space. You could put a parking space within that 12.5 feet that's outside of the 20 foot right of way that your drive, I'm probably getting my exact language wrong, the 20 foot drive that you cannot impede.
On the cul-de-sacs, why did we limit or place no limit on the length of the cul-de-sac?
I mean, we only had one, but I'm not sure what the total was. I think that was 1,200 feet or something.
Ours is
Yeah.
about that, I thought.
We did, well, in fact, we did have to, at least on it's hard to, you can't see it on this drawing, but in the northwest corner, that's the multifamily, lots. There's, I'll show you, there's, access drives that are private connected to other
Sorry.
streets.
Sorry.
There you go. So there'll be roads that connect you here. They're all private to ensure fire access. The way we have it currently laid out, which could obviously be a little bit different in the future, but there had to be a cul-de-sac there. And it's private, but we had to put a cul-de-sac for emergency services.
Okay, and then you've reduced the end of the cul-de-sac to a 40 foot radius instead of 42, and I think we've got our 42 because that's what we wanted to turn fire.
I don't think that's a problem to change that, to be honest with you. And really the cul-de-sacs are for public streets, and we don't have any for this neighborhood.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't,
Yeah.
but it bothered me that
I don't think there's a problem removing that, because like I said, we don't even have a public street that's got a cul-de-sac anyway. That's a private drive that's up there anyway, but regardless, it has to meet fire.
yeah, well, and I have to admit, I'm not sure what the state requirement for a fire truck turnaround is, but I know ours, we've got to 42 because that's what they recommended to.
We could strike that variance for that.
Let me ask Janae Let me ask a question. We're walking through this, and I've got quite a few notes, and we're fixing most of them, but why don't we, or are you willing to set this part off and hear public comment now? Sure. And that way they aren't sitting here listening to the details here, minor things that we can fix.
Yeah, like
I doubt most of them have detailed questions.
For sure.
We've got.
Yeah, that's what done. Yeah.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, if I may, and just trying to not have you sit through this detailed walkthrough, we're gonna, with my course permission here, we'll move this to the public comment section and let you comment on this rather than, I doubt that most of your comments are on the details that I'm going through and we are going through and gonna go through. And let's get the public comment, and if you want to stay and listen to the rest of it that we do, you're welcome to, but at least you won't have to, and we'll have heard, because we've got a big audience here that be nice to let you be heard and still get home tonight. So at this time, I'll call for public comments. I will note that we'll probably limit comments to once. We'd like to limit them to a reasonably short period. If somebody gets going on too long, I think I'm just by discretion going to say, could you wrap this up with your finer points? I mean, I could say I'll give you 5 minutes each, but that might not be necessary for all of you, and it may be, you might need 8. Do try to keep it reasonable because there's a lot of people here to say it. Everybody said it before. Say just like he said and with your detail. We won't respond to your comments as a matter of course. If there's something I or one of the commissioners feels deserves a direct comment, we can certainly do that, but we normally would not. We'll take your comments, listen to them, note them, and then proceed with our consideration. So who would like to be heard first? I will ask you to come to the podium and state your name and address, and we'll try to get those down.
My name's Charles Shell. How's everybody doing? Appreciate you guys taking the time out of your evening to let us speak. We've been kind of dreading this for a while. Actually, I live at 3500 Rising River Road there in Riverview Estates. That's the second home we've owned in this neighborhood. We really enjoy it there. Lived there for like 5 years, I think, total. My wife Ashley's here. She's a speech pathologist. She works for Mustang Public Schools, and I got my daughters Ellie and Dylan. They just stepped outside, but the neighborhood is really nice. I think it's probably the nicest neighborhood in town. If you've ever driven through there, you can see that the homes are very well taken care of. The landscaping's nice. The neighborhood entrance is actually a gem. We often have people drive through the neighborhood just to look at the neighborhood and look at the houses. But anyways, we've kind of been dreading this for a while, and we appreciate the developers and the planners coming out and kind of educating us as to what the plans are. But we do have a couple of concerns that I really haven't heard anybody talk about, and one of those is the traffic safety from Highway 37. That's a road that's very busy in the morning and then the 5 o'clock rush hour, and you have traffic come from the east and the west, and there's no stoplight there. There's no flashing yellow signal lights that I think should already be in place, which are not there. So when you pull out of that neighborhood, you have to turn into the turn lane and sit there if there's heavy traffic before you can merge out onto Highway 37 eastbound or westbound. I think that's a huge traffic safety issue. I know there's been multiple accidents out there. And I have 2 teenage daughters that are driving, and I'm worried about them every day driving in and out of that neighborhood right there. And so if you put all this development in, you're going to have to consider widening Highway 37 to put in turn lanes and designated traffic signal lights. I think that's a huge concern. I challenge you guys to drive into the neighborhood and pull out during the 5 o'clock rush hour, see what I'm talking about. Also, there are no current sidewalks in the neighborhood, which I think is a problem. And if you put all this extra development in there, that's going to be a safety issue. A couple years ago, one of our daughter's friends, Gavin, his dad was actually ran over and killed, Mr. Dupler, by a driver because he was walking in the street because we already don't have sidewalks. And that was, I think, about right here is where that occurred a couple years ago. So
No, this is all south of your development. So what we're talking about now
yes,
is south of
yes, sir.
Riverview.
That's our access.
Correct.
That's our access road.
I mean, we use this
right
road.
on the axis.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
This is We pulled into this every
Yeah.
single day. Yes,
That's the
sir.
current.
As our only access.
You're right.
That's it.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I wouldn't think.
But yeah, Mr. Dupler was killed by a driver. So our concern is more of a Highway 37 issue with the traffic there, and then also I think if they move in with this extra development, maybe consider putting a sidewalk requirement in there for the kids. There's a lot of people that walk through the neighborhood, that walk their dogs, runners, joggers, lots of kids in the neighborhood. So we are definitely concerned about that. Other than that, I don't think I have anything else. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, excuse me, I had a surgical procedure this morning, so I'm drinking tonight. I think it's a beautiful idea and concept, but not here.
Did you state your name? Mike,
Oh, I'm sorry.
please?
Robert Pistanchi. I think it's a great concept, but as I heard a board member from the November 17th meeting say, it's a great idea, but I wouldn't want it in front of my house either. So that's how I feel. I know a lot of other neighbors feel that. I mean, you're taking the density of a lot that we have now down to a quarter acre, which is the size of some of the houses out there now. You're going to be adding 2 houses to that in the less dense areas, and I don't even know what the density is going to be when you start adding in complexes, rentals. The rentals, the blue section there backs up to some of my neighbors. They'll have a rental apartments in their backyard. We were talking about how this is a concept that's the same as the Netherlands. The Netherlands have an average of 1.2 cars per family, where the United States, I think, has 2.2 cars per family. I mean, it's a whole different concept of living here. There'll be a shop there, but there's no anchor store for anybody to go to. Nobody's going to go in this walkable neighborhood to walk to Walmart. So, you know, the expenses of all this, the increased traffic, how many more people we're going to have, the density is going to be incredible. If you take out the green space and then compare that as the density, it's going to be a lot higher than the average, I believe. The traffic, as the gentleman stated before me, there'll be, I think, additional 2 or 3 exits going out into the kamikaze lane, as we call it. If you have 3 or 4 people trying to get out and get in at the same time, and everybody trying to get into that lane to exit onto 37, I think it's really going to be a nightmare. I mean, it's hard enough now. If any of you have tried it at 8 o'clock in the morning or 9 o'clock and 5 o'clock at night, makes it quite difficult. It's just all this traffic will have the access to our neighborhood, which we bought here for the privacy and being somewhat rural. But to have that in front of us and all those people and kids and traffic coming through our neighborhood is just not something we bought into when we were buying this. You know, we heard there might be a over 55 community and maybe some commercial property, not this. So I don't have anything else at this time, but I am opposed to it.
Thank you.
Alan Noble, 3683 Greekswell. I agree with everything that he said. I don't call it the kamikaze lane, but I've been in it. Where we are facing another car in the same direction as us, wanting to go in the same direction that we are. Anytime, day or night. I can't imagine this neighborhood being out here without multiple signals out there. And then, to agree with him also, we bought this property a year ago, moved from Surrey Hills here. The reason why we moved here is because of what happened in Surrey Hills. Rental properties condominiums, however you want to call it, multifamily homes, parking areas are not ever taken care of, ever, by the HOA or whoever it is. It's not the same HOA. They cannot manage people that don't manage themselves. I disagree with the entire thing.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Colin Weatherly, 3643 Oxbow. Live at just the front section. Sorry, don't keep my bad people. I'm retired police captain from Houston Police, 25 years. So my question is, if the city of Newcastle has established a 26-foot street for fire trucks, why are we going to reduce it to 20? As a cop, we can't drive. Fire truck drivers can't drive. And maybe you put a pumper through there, but have you put a ladder truck through there? As Newcastle grows, we're talking about 3-story buildings. A pumper is not going to help you. You're going to need a ladder truck, which is longer, it's wider, and if one of those buildings catches on fire, it's not one pumper that's coming. There's going to be several. And then my other thing was, I know Mr. Cleghorn asked, people parking on the streets. Said in Houston, this works great in downtown. You can walk everywhere. My friend comes home with me, he's going to park on the street because there's nowhere to park. Every parking lot is full. So now he parks there, we call the police. So now Newcastle Police is using resources. Our officers are now become parking cops, towing vehicles. Newcastle Police isn't that big. So we're going to have add more officers. Who's going to go out there and tow the cars? And I just feel like that's a waste of resources. But it's going to happen. People are going to park there. They're going to pull up in the yard. And it's just going to be a constant nightmare of trying to solve problems. So agree with the other things, but I'm not going to rehash what they said. But thank you for your time.
Ladies and gentlemen of the council, my name is Jason Lair. I live at 2283 Northwest 34th Street in the Riverview Estates. I'm an employee of the Boeing Company and have been for 30 years. And why that's relevant, my career has enabled me to move around the country and live in various states. I've lived in California, Virginia, Texas, and here. While in California, I lived in a neighborhood similar to this that had a common street that had private driveways, 10 homes to a driveway, which offered 2 spaces on the street for 5 of those homes. What happened was the street filled up. It was constantly full of cars. The HOA had to hire a towing company to come in and monitor the practices of parking, forcing residents to have parking permits on their cars to ensure that they parked in their garage and not on the street to reserve spots for family members or guests. Towing company was predatory. They had to kick that towing company out and bring in another one. Cost to the HOA. Second residence I lived in California, called Ladera Ranch, California, had a common parking lot area. Again, had streets that were minimum width. There was not supposed to be any parking on the street, which one, didn't allow people to wash their cars at their residence because there was no driveway to park their car and wash the car, and they certainly couldn't wash it in the parking lot next to a fellow resident's car. But the rules were there would be no parking on those common streets, but people did. Being private land, we couldn't call the sheriff's department to come enforce parking in that area. And when fire truck showed up, it was blocked by a car parked in the street. There were games that were played with that parking area. People would pull one car out of their garage, reserve a spot for a family member, and when that family member showed up, they'd give them a call and they'd pull that car out. So the parking lots were always apparently full, and no one was able to have guest parking or parties or what have you. Constant full. Thirdly, businesses in that area. If any of those businesses are going to serve or be a bar or a restaurant that serves alcohol, are we now encouraging drinking and driving in our neighborhood? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Anyone?
I'll go. Chris Conley, live in Riverview Estates. We've lived there for a year, so I think the parking has been talked about. We're also now going to have homes that are right near the road. So if you drive through and you see a mailbox that's hit, The next one's going to be hit, could be a home. We have two boys, young boys, one's 6, one that is 3. We moved here because it was wide open spaces and because our kids would have room to run, and we love the neighborhood. Now you're going to have 3-story buildings. We're going to be right on the, our backyard is right on the multi-unit, probably about right over here. Some of the questions I have already been addressed, but does Newcastle have the police and fire infrastructure to handle this type of development? We've talked about the hydraulic analysis on pipe for the third section on the north. Have we done that same type of analysis on this type of development? Because I don't think Newcastle is ready for that. We talked about an HOA that has to be important in this type of an area. The HOA that we're in can't get the residents to pay the bill because they can't figure out how to bill people. We haven't had one community meeting of an HOA. It's non-existent. We pay, but I don't know where it goes. Talked about parking off the street. Maybe it's not off the street, maybe it's in parking areas, but the amount of crime that I think we're going to see out of this is going to be different than what we have today. This is an urban vision in the wrong spot. We mentioned all the agricultural and residential areas that surround it. I think it is a good idea, but it's a good idea somewhere else. So we oppose it.
I get your last name again. I didn't do it.
Yeah, Conrad, C-O-N-R-Y.
And what was your address?
3421 Falling River Drive.
3421 what?
Falling River Drive.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Tamara Dickens. I'm at 3469 Falling River Drive on the southern border of this new development. Again, I really like the concept. I think it would be a beautiful addition. I don't understand placing it immediately adjacent to such a polar opposite division. We all moved to Riverview Estates for the wide open spaces, the no privacy fencing, the large lots, the single-story homes, and to put this kind of development immediately adjacent to us, I don't understand the reasoning there. There are some things that could be done to improve this design and still build it there, but my 3 main concerns are there really is no buffer between the 2 additions. The people that are on the southern border are going to be looking at this very dense, tall buildings in our what were peaceful, large backyards with lots of wildlife, etc. The traffic concerns on our only access to our homes. There are 9 access points on Riverfront Drive. I think that could be better designed so that more of that traffic was spilling onto the new roads rather than onto our only access. This is going to be complicated also by Riverview Estates Phase 3 is about to start. And my third concern is, as many residents will tell you, we have very poor water pressure on that hill. It's been a constant problem for many of us. Phase 3, I don't know if it's going to make it worse, and I would continue to be concerned about it with this development. I would like to see some improvements made on those 3 concerns. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else want to be heard?
Mike Langley, 3429 Riverfront Drive. I actually live right there in that big pizza pie looking area. Everybody says, or we've had several comments thus far that they like the idea, just not here. No, I think your idea sucks. Okay, I don't want to hear. I don't. I like to see the cows. I can look outside down to the south and I can see cows. I'm from Kansas. I love cows. Okay? I love big wide open spaces because that's where I'm from. My wife and I we're an Army family. We've lived in high density housing areas and it sucks. We moved right there because it wasn't that. We have 5 kids. My youngest, my daughter is 2. Okay. I don't want to have to deal, like, I want what I have right now. Nothing. Right there. Okay? That's all I got.
Just for fun comment. I'm from Western Kansas. I like wide open spaces.
Great God.
So I understand that comment.
Hello, I'm Brianna Roach, and we live, oh goodness, at 3651 Oxbow. We live in the corner where all the blue is. We chose that lot because we backed up to some horses, and we had the beautiful tree line, which we understand wasn't in our lot. But the developer, same developer, says, come live in Riverview because of the beautiful trees and that blue. It's going to be 17 multi-family apartments backing up to our backyard. In their paperwork, it says they can be up to 55 feet high. I don't know if that was an accident or a typo, but that can't happen. Even over here in the estate houses, they say that they can be 3-story tall with no maximum. That doesn't account for a roof line, which our current roof lines are 10-12, so that adds quite a bit. We have a really big discrepancy on the density that they show. Per our meeting that we had with them the other day, they told us that it's actually 400 family units or over 400 family units. So I calculated per their pictures and measurements from online, calculating the acreages. Over here on the east side, it was about 5 houses, 5 families per acre. In the middle section between Riverfront and the Greenbelt, it was 6 per acre. And you moved to the far side and it was over 7 per acre. So I don't know where 3.3 comes from, but it's definitely not that. Even the single family village is what they call it, can include duplexes, can include townhomes per lot. Per lot. So some of their pictures show, I don't know what the happy houses are. Those are somewhere. Of course, the apartment complexes in our backyard. But there's no easement shown of how close they're going to be. And they don't want parking lots in the village because aesthetically it's just not pretty. So they lined them all the way up this side and all the way around the back, which is right where we live. And those are major concerns. The 10 streets coming onto the main street, like they've said, that's our only way in to our neighborhood. Planning some cul-de-sacs, planning some other options. The amount of house that's going to take up each lot is going to be a lot per their pictures. So those are our biggest problems. And I've talked to Janae about the rentals. I know the city can't restrict rentals, but our current HOA has a restriction for rental properties. And that's one thing that keeps it nice. Also, the HOA taking care of things. We live beside one of the green belts. It's about an acre of land. In the last 5 years, it has been mowed by the HOA 0 times. It has been mowed by my husband. It has been mowed by our neighbors every couple weeks. So if they say they're going to take care of this whole complex, it currently isn't taken care of. We also have a 6-foot hole with rebar in it from the cattle fencing that came through. They took the rebar out to build another house and just left metal. So that's something that we have taken to our builders who work with the developer, and nothing's happened in the last 4.5 years since we've lived there. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Anyone else? Going once?
Hello, my name is Jenny Langley. I live at 3429 Riverfront Drive. My husband so eloquently pointed out where we lived. So right there in the front of the neighborhood. So I have just a few things. Again, a lot of the things have already been mentioned. So first off, talking about the parking and traffic that goes through this neighborhood. So correct me if I'm wrong, but what was brought up is that through the commercial development, they were going to widen the road to 24 foot. Was that correct? To me, 24 foot wide with double parallel parking is not a two-way street. That's a one-way street with parallel parking. You need at least 8 foot wide to parallel park your car. So it's like not even are we going to have through the residential part, like they talked about earlier, just constant cars. You're going to get to the commercial part and it'll be a one-way road by calculations that I can tell. So that's not going to work. It has been brought up even today that there has been a traffic study. So my question is where's the document? So I don't feel like you can approve this if you haven't seen a traffic document. We can take their word that the traffic study is correct and that fire trucks can go in, but that's just taking their word for it. So, and my last comment is kind of a question for the developer. I don't know if I can't ask them something.
No.
Well, can I just say it though?
Sure,
Just to say it out loud. My question is what they're proposing is, are they going to be lease or purchase structures? Because I don't know, and what percentage are purchase structures, what percentage are lease structures? I feel like that also needs to be kind of pretty open and honest and what they do propose to develop for that. That's all I have. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Yeah. Okay. My name is Dana Roach. I live at 3651 Oxbow Drive. My wife was up here a moment ago. We all obviously have some concerns on a number of issues. We have several young kids as well. Our kids play in the street. We're not having curbs or sidewalks, that is. And now they're going to be smaller streets. Kids are still going to play in the streets. You're not going to stop them. The common areas that they show in the green, especially the largest one, most of that's going to be unplayable anyways. There's a creek that runs through there. There's several trees in there. I don't really see that as some beautiful park currently, unless they're going to spend, I don't know, $300,000 to change it from what it looks like now. A barrier between this development and our neighborhood would be extremely nice at a very minimum if you guys do move forward with this. We obviously, as my wife stated, we are right next to the blue multifamily, and we're not interested in looking at a parking lot, 17 apartment buildings, multi-story apartment buildings for that matter. But as many people have noted, why they purchased in our neighborhood was because of how it was marketed to us by the said developers. Wide open spaces, look at beautiful trees. We all knew that none of us owned the front 77.33 acres at the front of this neighborhood. We all knew that going in.
we all understand that that's not our property and that we don't have a say-so as to what exactly is going to go in there. However, we were marketed wide open spaces, beautiful entrance to the neighborhood, some commercial, some additional residential. But all of that has changed multiple times throughout this last several years. And so we're all sitting here as homeowners. Were we duped into buying into this neighborhood? And we all spent a sizable amount of money to own a home in this neighborhood. All the financial, situations here. We all have a stake as to what we want to see, and maybe some of us choose to leave the neighborhood because we don't like the way this looks. But it feels as though we were all marketed a certain way, and yet now we're seeing something entirely different. Probably the fifth different rendition of what the frontage of this neighborhood could potentially look like. And so it's troublesome, at least to me. And I really don't see a need for the multifamily at a minimum. If they want to add residential, that makes complete sense. If they want to add some commercial, it makes complete sense. But the multifamily, I think, should definitely be eliminated, in my opinion. And then the last part of my points are, it's not incongruent in any way, shape, or form to what we all have now or what they even have planned for phase 3. So how does this fit in our community? We all live in this community. We're a part of the community. And this doesn't appear to fit the way they currently have it designed. I would be completely open to see beautiful residential areas and beautiful commercial areas in the front of our neighborhood. Ones in which we could potentially even drive our golf carts up to and buy coffee at these said commercial locations. One where we might even spend our dollars to support these said businesses. But as the way it's currently designed now, we would have to walk at least a quarter mile to even get to one of them, if not further. So that's all I have to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you. What else?
Good evening. Ronnie Hatter, live at 3514 Riverfront Drive.
I'm sorry, what was your last name?
Hatter, Hatter. Don't really have much to say. I just wanted to say that if this kind of project had been built first, then I would have just driven on by, would have gone elsewhere. Because this is so much different from what we have today. And like so many others have said, what we bought into, when you go into an HOA and you buy a piece of property, you sign pages and pages of CCRs, which when you do that, the developer is ensuring that you can't substantially change anything about your neighborhood. But then the developer can go and substantially change everything about your neighborhood. So just for future reference, it might be maybe prevent a lot of getting some emotional feedback in meetings like these if the Planning Commission and City Commission could take a look at the long-term planning and say, you know what, as a developer, if you're going to build high-density housing, build it first. And then let everybody make a decision about where they want to spend $500,000 on a home. They might choose to drive on down the road. I don't know. This is the first time I've been involved in a project like this, but I've seen something like this come up. So I would have to depend on you guys, to actually give me advice. How would y'all feel about it? I mean, would y'all have any concerns about this kind of thing going in front of your house? I mean, that's a sincere question. I'm really asking.
I commented, we aren't gonna answer
I know,
back, but
I know.
I hear your question.
Okay. All right. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
My name is Melissa Hickey. I live at 3420 Rising River Road. In case you're not familiar with our neighborhood, I want to read to you this little snippet of Riverview Estates from the Builder Collective website, which is the part of the developer. Welcome to Riverview Estates, where luxury meets tranquility in the coveted Tri-City area of Newcastle. Nestled just off I-44, Riverview Estates offers the perfect blend of urban convenience and rural serenity. As you enter the community, you'll be greeted by hidden treasures at every turn, from the picturesque landscape pond with its soothing fountain to sweeping views of mature trees, rolling hills, and access to the scenic Canadian River. At Riverview Estates, each home is a masterpiece of timeless design, with homes starting at approximately 2,200 square feet of living space on half-acre to 2-acre home sites, with plenty of room to spread out and enjoy the privacy you deserve. Riverview Estates promises a lifestyle of luxury and comfort. Discover the best of both worlds at Riverview Estates, where convenience meets country charm and every moment is filled with beauty and tranquility. So this is what we all bought when we moved into this neighborhood. I think a lot of us are not necessarily opposed to this, Carlton Landing, Wheeler District concept. But if we wanted to live there, we could have moved to those places. We didn't. We moved to Newcastle, to Riverview Estates, to have the wide open spaces. There's a lot of talk in these plans about the green space. We have plenty of green space now, way more in our own lots than we would ever see in this highly condensed area. On top of the other concerns that have already been mentioned, I won't go into all of that, but we're calling it the Homeowners Association. It's the Developers Association. He has never turned it over to the homeowners. We've never had a meeting. We've never had any communication from them. We found out about this from the billboard they put up at the front of our entrance. So if that gives you any insight as to who we're dealing with and why maybe we're a little bit leery to just trust that they're going to do these amazing things and it's going to be great, when, we all bought into this neighborhood with this vision, and now this is how we're finding out about their plan, which, who is building all of this? The developer. Who's going to own all this commercial and multifamily? The developer. All they see are dollar signs. Meanwhile, the rest of us who, this is the only road to get in and out of our homes. My son is 11. He gets on our golf cart, drives to the front of the neighborhood. He likes to fish in the pond. I'm not going to be able to let him do that with, hundreds more properties here at the front of our neighborhood. We're no longer going to have this, country living. It's going to be an urban community, which none of us moved to an urban community. We moved to, these wide open spaces that we prefer to keep. That's all I have.
Sorry, broke my ankle a couple months ago, so
we'll take,
for whatever reason I now have boots on again, but anyway, I'll make a good show tonight. My name is Deidre Beach. I am at 3648 Riverfront Drive, and my family and I built our home there in 2015. And the reason we picked our lot is you walk out our backyard and you see Devon Tower, you see the airport, Bricktown, everything. Beautiful. We are literally out there nightly. I can't fathom when, Mr. and Mrs. Roach talked about their backyard, what they're going to walk out and see if this goes through. I also am a realtor. This is my 31st year in real estate. And that is the thing that helps, my husband's a realtor too, that helps us sell our area, is because of the wide open spaces and the views that we have. And so, I get it. After as long as we've been in real estate, you're going to have growth. I get that. But maybe we can come up with something a little different to where our neighbors aren't walking out and seeing high rises, multifamily units. Maybe that's something we can figure out to work on to make a difference, because something's going to go in that land. That's just reality. But maybe we can make a happy medium. So thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Return to the meeting.
Thank you for your time tonight, guys.
Thank you. Thank you.
Would it be possible to address some of the neighbors' concerns that we've already kind of discussed before this meeting? That would pretty much give some changes to the PUD to address their concerns that we've already agreed to as a development group.
Q&A.
These are, so we had an HOA meeting with residents, and a lot of the same comments were discussed there. And so we discussed internally and also came up with some things that I think would help the situation. I'm of course not going to make everyone happy, but buffering some of the heights, some of the units on multifamily, there's some things that we'd be willing to write into the PUD to modify the document to help on the concerns of the residents.
Sounds like Mike soothes some of our concerns too, and I'm willing to do both sides listen. I mean, we're turning our meeting over for a statement rather than our meeting. Do you guys want to do that?
I mean, essentially, it's typically when comments are given, we have the ability to, respond to those comments and offer up potential changes based off the residents' comments. So
I think because of the structure of our meeting, I'm not willing to open it up to a community Q&A deal. I will open it up to you to address issues you know exist.
Yes, sir. That's all I'm asking. Not Q&A, just to
let you
address their concerns.
tell them that.
Yes, sir.
And then we
100%.
return to our meeting. Okay.
Yes, sir.
We've had people leave, please.
I'm sorry?
We've had people leave for this question.
Yeah, so you may take some notes, and I'll be happy to provide this with you as well. So
For the first HOA, and how long?
That wasn't an HOA meeting, so whatever.
Okay, hold it. I'll open my meeting up and let him make a statement you might want to hear, but I'm not going to turn it over.
We're good.
Okay.
So first, the multifamily comment. I believe, people think multifamily, think apartments. They think, high density, 3-story tall, 80 units a building. I mean, that's not what this is about. These are smaller units that are connected. They could be rental. They could be for purchase. But what we're willing to do in regards to the multifamily district is limit, which in the district, which you have, which I can read the code so you know which page I'm talking about here. So under page 11, under the multifamily, under 8.1 use and development regulations, under multifamily, which is on page 11. Currently it states multifamily is defined as apartments ranging from garden, courtyard apartments to a maximum of 12 units per one structure. We're willing to reduce that to 6 units per one structure. So essentially you have a building with 6 units. And that is not apartments that people think of. This is, attached, call it attached single family, multifamily, but it's not the scale of a apartment building. These are more of a garden style, 6 units, 6-plex. They're not talking about something that's these apartments that people seem to think they are. So we're willing to reduce that to 6 from 12. It's cutting those in half per building. Therefore, that's going to reduce the amount of the scale of those things as well. And then on the height limitations here on 8.14 height regulations, we will agree to maximum 2 stories and 40 feet instead of the 55 feet that was in there. We'll aptly reduce that. I understand their concerns of the height of the buildings. I think the current regulation for single family is 35 feet for just a single family residence, so it's only 5 feet more than that. It's likely for architectural features or whatnot, but 40 feet. Reduce that by 15 and 2-story max. Then on the 8.15 area and setback regulations for the multifamily district, we would add a statement that says, number 3 of that statement would be rear yard adjacent to Riverview Estates. We would put a minimum rear yard of 20 feet. In addition, we would also, for lots in 8.6 screening regulations, we would also add a statement that for lots abutting Riverview Estates, trees shall be installed every 50 feet for a buffer. We can word that differently, but it's a landscaping area to help screen from the neighborhood. So within that 20-foot setback, there would be trees at 50 feet on center minimum. And that can be revised if need be. So hopefully that helps a little bit. When it comes to the engineering side of things, just to let everyone know, we spoke about this before, but we did heavy, I would say they're preliminary designs, but we did go through 5 rounds of comments with the city's consultant. This has been heavily reviewed, and we have done a water model, which we will have to finalize during the final plat stage. We also did a traffic impact analysis that was submitted, that was reviewed, that was preliminary just for the intersection of Riverview. But for the final plat, it was agreed upon that when we do the final plat, we have to go back and do a full-blown traffic analysis that includes intersections to the east and west and determine level of service. At this PUD use stage, it's really cart before the horse. That needs to happen at the final plat stage. So it will happen. It has to happen because you already agreed to it. And so when the final plat comes in, we have to do this analysis of that area. And if traffic, per our initial analysis, the center turn lane was adequate, but if other improvements need to be done, that's fine. But we also, just so they know, we're putting in XL and decel lanes at every entrance. The existing and the new ones, we're putting in decel lanes so you can get off the road, slow down, and traffic can go by you. And when you come out of the subdivision, you have XL lanes, so you have time to get to speed and be able to look to help be a safer access on this 37. And then the new entrances would also have those same XL and decel lanes. So that should help. Obviously, it's going to help with capacity and safety. But we still have to do a full-blown traffic analysis of the level of service of this intersection based off of all the surrounding areas, and that has already been agreed to. So that will come, and the traffic signal comment, if it warrants us putting a traffic signal in, the developer has no problem doing that. But ODOT will not let a traffic signal be installed on 37 until actual traffic counts warrant it. So we can say, yeah, this full build out is going to need a traffic signal, but ODOT will not let you install it until you have the cars to back that up. They don't allow traffic signals installed in their right of way until on proposed and projected numbers. It's the numbers that are currently there that day. So, like I say, we'd be able to do it, but ODOT is not going to let that happen. They've already stated that, and that's in the rules. But if it warrants a traffic signal at that moment, then the developer would have to install that. And that would be done, and this is going to be phased in multiple final plats. So, we go to the phase 7 or phase 8, whatever it may be, if that warrants the traffic signal, then that's going to pretty much, that'll be contingent upon the final plat approval to do that at that point. So these items that, engineering wise and, water capacity, all these things, those have been looked at from a preliminary standpoint, but we can't do a full blown analysis until we do the design, which is the next step, which is past preliminary plat to the final plat. So just so everyone's aware, we are considering all the engineering, all the water capacity, the traffic, the sewer. We have to do a lift station to even get this to be sewered. All those things have been thought of that will be done and have to be done because we agreed to it during our rounds of comments with the city engineer. So, just so, and then not make everyone feel better, but these things still have to be done. We just can't do it in a final capacity when it's so early on in the process. Because all we're doing right now is the use of the property, not all the engineering. Now, you do need to have some information, I get that, but this is for the use of the property, not all the details. Those come at the next step of the process, which is the final plat, which will be public notice, and people will come and have opinions.
Yeah, public notice.
Final plat's done?
No.
Okay, sorry. I strike that.
It will be on the agenda. It will be placed on the agenda, but it doesn't have to have public.
Oh, okay, sorry. So it'll be on the agenda, but not public notice. Gotcha. So hopefully that helps. I know it may not help everything, but we are willing to do, do some things to help sit the residents' concerns in that regard. So, thank you.
Thank you. You have, I have statement. I'm not sure I asked me that question. You've asked all the one that well, you have specific stuff on this.
I had some comments. I sent something to May this week, last week, and it was, my comments were mostly regarding the language that was used throughout. The ARB grants variances, it's words like should, the building materials should include this or that, or the building materials are encouraged to use this and that, but it's not, those are not contractual languages, those are suggestive. And so if the ARB is who dictates variances for those things, then it should be shalls instead of shoulds. It's pretty standard for
not that from those two, but you've got those. I'm wondering, we can't, all of us get together with the developer and ask these questions. Two of us could. Or we can get comments from them.
I can send them to you, and you can hash them out. All their answers to your satisfaction, I'm good with it. It's just the questions I have.
Well, and get the answer back to you, and then we'd have to go. That's what I was wondering.
Yes, sir.
We've all got some questions. I've obviously got more than everybody else. Do you want to walk through these tonight, or do you want to us get together and sit down and go through them, and then present the answers to everybody here, and then have a meeting that's really based on
The final document.
the final document and what we hear back from the council as to their intent to open this area up to this sort of development and where we are.
I would have to defer to Russell. I'm open. He's, well, just meeting and talking on that. Yeah, he's willing to do that, sure.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, you can see how the question and hitting the item and getting it fixed goes, because we were doing that. I've got several pages of things that I read through, and other commission members have got some comments, and I think you heard the type of thing. I mean, there's language problems we found in that, and the developer gave us time to read through it more thoroughly, and we've done that. Rather than sit here and go through this, and we can continue to do that if you want to listen to nitpick, or we can ask the developer if he wants to continue this, meet with us at City Hall, address these issues, get them fixed, and let the commission look at the final document and decide what it is.
At the next one.
At the next planning commission meeting. In all honesty, that's what I'd like to do. And that's going to be my suggestion, unless I hear an uproar from the audience who says, we came tonight and we get to hear you. Because it's not that I'm wanting to get behind closed doors and talk to somebody. It's a tedious deal that we just sit down as we were and say, we've got a problem with this, and they say, we can fix that. Or, we can't fix that. You heard him say, well, in Riverview 3, there's a question about the 6 versus 8 inch water lines. They tested it, they moved it, takes care of my problem, and we go on. And that's how those deals work. And with the commission's authority, I'm going to make a motion that we ask this to be continued under those circumstances. And then I'll ask the developer. So I want everybody here. Everybody's okay? He signifies whenever he's hand, because I'm making a motion. Yeah. Oh.
Did I guess the questions and answers become public?
I can include them in the minutes, yeah.
And then the city council review, does that get delayed? Does it get held as?
It'll be continued until we make a recommendation.
Okay.
And so basically, we're asking the developer to go to a February city council.
And then the road, is that a variance to go to that width, or is it approved by this team? Is it approved by the council? Where does that go?
The going down the road, 20 foot versus.
Yes, sir.
That's part of the plat and would be a council decision ultimately. We'll either recommend it or not recommend it. I would go so far as to say the developer wants that.
Yeah.
So it's going to be part of whether it's recommended or not recommended by this council.
Thank you.
And when is the next planning meeting?
January the 26th. Dean, is that, I mean,
Yeah.
do you agree to continue
Yes,
it
sir.
under that?
Yeah, like the program.
Get a date, we can sit down and work.
Yes, sir, absolutely.
Yes,
I have a
ma'am.
question, just so everybody's here. So you guys will discuss privately to nitpick it and do everything, and then you will meet on the 26th to make a decision, or will the decision be met before that? 'Cause I think people
No,
here want to
well,
know, like, if we do
well,
want to.
here's, we as a group cannot sit down with the developer because it's another public meeting. We could have two of us meet with the developer. Technically, I guess two of us could meet and then the other two could meet. Developers get tired of that. I can tell you. We've done that a little bit, but anyway, what in this case will happen is we're going to gather this together. If one of the other members wants to meet with the developer with me, I'm going to stick my nose in the middle of it and do it. We'll meet, we'll go through it. I'll bring it back to the members by an email for them because that's not a meeting. I'll just provide them my notes. I'll bring those notes into the record at our 26th meeting. They will have already had them in their packet. And then at that meeting, we'll discuss the final, how it's being proposed, and any questions we have about that, and whether we want to recommend it or not. If the decision for this commission to recommend it to the city council would be made at the January 26th meeting. And we just hopefully wouldn't have a mile-long list of questions. I read it this way, what did you mean? And we'll address it at that time. If any of you are here and have additional concerns or additional comments you want us to consider that are different from what you gave. Because literally, I mean, those are thoughts I'm sure all of us have about had or where they are. There's limits on what we can say yes and no to and how people can develop their land, but we can influence things. But that's how that would be. As was noted, that didn't apply. So that's what we're doing. The developers agreed to continuance to our next regular scheduled meeting. I'm going to ask the planning commission to vote on that, and that's what we'll do. This time, I'll make a motion to present to the applicant's request and consent. This matter will be continued at the applicant's request to our next regular scheduled meeting. The intent being we will gather our questions and meet as a representative of the board and hammer some of these questions out. I make a motion that request be accepted and this matter be continued. Do I have a second? I have a second. All in favor, signify by raising his hand. Be unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dean.
Okay.
Item 12 is Dean. I'm sorry.
Yes, sir. Sorry.
Again.
Yeah.
Our agreement continues item 12 also.
Yes, sir. Yes. Before we plan. Yes, sir. Sorry. Yes. Formally request to continue of item 12 as well.
I make a motion that we accept that.
Like what he's saying.
Request to continue item 12, discussion of possible action on the plan.
No more than 6
Be unanimously approved.
But I think multiple things got said.
Item number 13, discussion of possible
But
action
not
on
intending to be that way, but that's what.
special meetings.
Well, what specifically thinking about that?
I don't think we want a special meeting between now and
That's
then.
the one I thought. And then it was
Questions,
four,
need some notes. If we wanted a special meeting, we would call.
Kathy and I were working on setting up that. We worked on setting up the meeting. After, yeah, after, I should say
Maybe between Christmas and New Year's, but probably not unless you're really anxious.
Yeah,
See how-
got to the 26th, and after New Year's, probably. You think that's plenty of time? I think that's probably first of January.
it's plenty of time.
That'll still be 2-3 weeks. Yeah.
Just business meeting. Right, right.
I wouldn't want to burden everybody over the holidays with reading through this.
Yeah, I know.
Unless you really want to take a nap after Christmas Eve.
That doesn't sound like a fun afternoon.
Yeah. It was a lot of fun writing.
I don't get the first week in January and really the second was pretty clear for me.
Can you guys prepare for any, unless you have additional ones, okay, and then you guys can get those right out. And that first week, we need the second week in January, that still gives us 2 weeks for you to make those adjustments and get the fund back done.
That's a special meeting?
No, that's just,
Oh, okay, y'all are talking.
By
the 14th.
That's fine.
Somewhere in there, we'll
Yes, sir.
yeah.
I'll make myself available.
And in that period, we'll just contact you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Look at a date that works.
Yeah.
Me and you.
I'll switch some things around to make this happen. So just let me know when you're available.
Okay, well,
I'll be flexible.
I don't get here nowadays, so I can probably be more of it.
Great. Yeah, during the day would be great, but in the evening's fine as well. Okay. Yeah.
You keep out, I'll stay awake.
So we need Kathy to be able to take all the notes of everything.
I took some good notes. I'm sure you guys did.
Yeah, it'll take lots of notes.
Well, I take notes, I don't know if there's people.
We'll get with you. And you want us to get with you
Maybe
here in December or November?
Yeah, if you want to look at your schedule, maybe set it up.
We'll do a conference call and work on it.
Yeah, we can.
I'll try to get it set up. I'll get a couple days for orders and I'll email you and we'll finalize it. Does Russell want to attend as well, or is it just going to be you?
Likely, but for sure I'll be there. Maybe Austin, but
Well,
maybe.
if Russell can attend, then great. If not,
Because he's gonna have to agree to change. If changes are made, he'll need to agree to be better for us.
I think so.
We don't want
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Have a good night.
Make a motion to adjourn. I think that was the next thing. Second, I have a motion second to adjourn. We are.